So, Sunil and Charan, thank you for talking to me today about the new exhibition Unruly Desires at Leamington Spa Art Gallery and Museum. I'd love to know what your first impressions are of the gallery. We've just been down there and had a look, and I was just wondering how you feel about the new exhibition. Sunil, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think it looks great on the blue. That was a good idea. The blue background, the dark blue. Yeah, I've not often had a dark blue, I must say.
Oh, that's good.
It's veered towards the red and the yellow side of things, so it's unusual for me.
We talked a lot about colour, I remember, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And the pictures look better than I thought they might do, because when you make them, you're like too close to the physical prints, because we make them ourselves.
Yes. And I
So
love that about your work. It's
So we're right up against the printer. So we often don't see them until they're up in the show, like properly, stand back and see them. So they look a bit different and new, like we hadn't really seen them before, quite that way.
No, I can understand that when you've been up very close to something, it's the same with any project you're working on, and when you step back and then come to see it again, it just has a new aura about it. Yeah, that's good.
And I thought they might be too large for the historical works, which tend to be smaller.
I was worried about that.
But actually, it makes a kind of statement about our contemporary digital life. It's just made everything so so big and overwhelming in a way.
That's really interesting. That's a really interesting
What do they
take
call
on
it now? Fashionably immersive.
Immersive.
We're definitely immersive in that room. You can't escape from those big prints.
Just the scale of the monumentality. Yeah.
And I think it's also like interesting choice of pictures. The art, the painting that we used in the exhibition is kind of like also like stands out, and we know which of the first of all, like they are the prime sort of like work for the exhibition, but it's also kind of like this dialogue between the old and new, and that's kind of a sort of like it's about like time also, I think, because they're kind of like recent made, so it's a kind of different kind of like scale and time.
Yeah, very recently made.
Yeah,
in the case of your 3 new works, which have never been shown before. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
And
I think perhaps we should go back to the beginning and talk about how we came to this exhibition. It was actually before my time, but we acquired work from you through the Contemporary Art Society, didn't we? Way back in, I think, probably 2022, 2023, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Around that time.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly received the works in 2023 once I was here at the end of that year. And I think that triggered us really wanting to have an exhibition of your work. And I think when we first started having conversations around this, we were thinking about almost like a retrospective Sunil Gupta show, but you have quite a few of those going on at the moment, and it very soon developed into looking at our collection and how we'd
then I think Charan was having was it 23? When was your Wakefield?
Wakefield
23, and I think it's also like triggered. Not triggered, actually it's like a payback really, because when somebody comes from museums and galleries, and because we share the studio space, and I like every now and then I fill in for what Sunil is talking about, or because I know so much of the life and work around, and I was curating also the show. Not curating at that time.
The one at Wakefield?
No, in Chennai.
Oh, of course, yes.
And there's always that conversation, and then I was talking to Chloe, and then it never happened to me ever that somebody from that discussion who came to see Sunil writing to me that we would like to work. And so suddenly I was selling something which she bought. So that was kind of interesting. And then and that's when I think it's kind of like started for me with
with this show.
And then when we were showing, and this whole idea about company paintings and histories.
Because that was new to me. You introduced me to a whole history of art that I hadn't actually ever come across, and that does tell you something about the history of art education we get these days. But it was something new to me and something that I just dived into, and it was so interesting. And then to find we had these little
you have
pictures
your own collection,
in our
which
collection, which is
extraordinary. That was quite extraordinary. Yeah.
And you were very inspired by those for the new photographs that you took in March of this year.
Yes.
You were enacting a lot of those kind of
characters.
those characters.
Yeah.
No, it was wonderful. So I suppose we're looking at those two series, The Promise of Beauty from your series and The New Pre-Raphaelites. They're what we kind of landed on. And I feel like there's something really beautiful about those two series together. They've got this historic element that looks back but is also looking forwards, and then it just chimes in perfectly with our kind of 19th century collection. Those two series have never been shown before, have they?
Not together.
Not together.
Sorry,
No,
together.
Not together.
No,
Yeah.
and I think that's really interesting.
That's true. The other interesting thing has just occurred to me now as we're speaking is that both of them have roots in the Tate exhibition program. Mine were based on the
Neil
Tate Britain.
Bartlett.
Was the exhibition that Tate did.
Yes.
And
Was it a
and the
Pre-Raphaelite exhibition? that Tate
Pre-Raphaelite,
did?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
interesting.
the company paintings all emerged in the Tate did the show of
Empire,
British
Empire and Artist.
Do you remember that? It was a company.
No, I never
20
saw that.
It was artworks made by British soldiers, travelers, up in the Empire who were posted there for some reason.
Right.
And in their spare time, they made these
These pictures.
pictures, which have ended up with the Tate.
Right.
A very famous one you might know is the one of the lone soldier coming back from
the
a
war.
patrol in Afghanistan,
Okay, gosh.
and everyone else was killed, and he was the last guy.
What period is that then? Is that
It's the 19th century.
late 19th century?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And also, Chloe's from the Tate.
Oh, I see.
So that's
So
probably
there's
why
that
it
kind of-
came together. And is that when you first started researching their company painting style?
No, I think I know the style for a very long time.
Yeah.
When I was studying back in India in my school days, that is like 25 years ago.
Sure.
But when I came here, so often people would ask me, because I wanted to talk about queer lives and my HIV work, and they would always ask people here, teacher and faculty, that what is about us in this work? What is the connection here? Why you're talking about here and with the UK and British Empire. So then I thought, okay, so I've gone back to this when school days, and this was the kind of like a link in some ways, because they were borrowing these styles of paintings from various kinds of style from India.
I mean, could you explain a little bit, because people listening might not be aware of what the company's style is? It's like a hybrid style, isn't it?
It is a kind of like, it's a kind of borrow. I mean, they were, first of all, they were small
Yes.
in size, and they were various kinds of elements you see borrowed from Rajasthani style paintings or in which we call like Bengal style paintings.
So
they're
there are
kind of-
geographical differences. like
yeah,
regional
and also they
differences.
tend to be like two-dimensional. There's not much dimensionality in them. So they were like quite opposite to what was happening here in pre-Raphaelite. It was the same time really,
Right.
but it was that kind of like flatness of
Yeah, they
of,
feel like
of things.
sketches.
Yes.
really.
Yeah,
Sort of
yeah.
icon-y kind of,
Yeah, so they're kind of flat.
Yeah.
And they're also going on at the same time as this photography going on of a
the beginning
similar
of the-
vein, where
Yeah.
That's
the photographers
interesting.
are shooting types of people.
Right.
So India's 19th century history is all based on British investigation into types of things. This categorization
When museums
of
were
people
first
and things.
invented.
So
Yeah.
which came
So
from
everything
here.
was coming at the
They
same
brought
time.
it there and they were doing it there and they found this. So like we know the tribes of Rajasthan, for example, through Colonel Todd, who published a huge tome on it.
Yeah.
These were
He had a lot of
photographs.
time, he went around
Yeah.
noting all these, and then somebody came and photographed them, one by one in an
I wish I'd
anthropological way.
mentioned that in the exhibition.
And
Yeah.
Very good.
and with the photography, they went to extremes of measurements, like how tall people
size
were
and skull
Ah.
measurements and
But then you're
arms
there
getting
was a
into
study
rather,
of the kind of
and-
types
yeah,
in a way.
yeah.
I think that probably ended up in somewhere like eugenics rather unpleasantly. Imagine that's where it kind of went to, that kind of categorising of everything from the natural world through to
Yeah.
people.
But it's also become the basis of contemporary scholarship there, because there was nothing before that studied.
I see, so it's like a foundational.
Yeah,
idea.
in a way. Even if you're disproving something, but there's something to disprove.
Yeah, I see.
And I think what interesting about this exhibition is also like talking about similar time frame, what was happening here in Europe with pre-Raphaelites and this idea of sexuality and desire and everything. And at the same time, we are also creating these artworks or these drawings in South Asia, and and we both are in our work kind of like talking about these elements.
Yeah.
And it's gone back and forth in the sense that his work was made in England, although he grew up in India, but mine was made in India, although I've been here for very long.
Yeah.
But
The new pre-Raphaelites was made in India.
Yeah.
my work says
Yeah, so all the pre-Raphaelites are made in India,
And the
and
Promise of
all
Beauty.
the Promise of Beauty,
Wow.
which is like about company paintings using Indian painting
Gosh.
style, made in here
That's
in the
absolutely
UK. So it's kind of like
fascinating.
also like going
Yes,
crossover.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And we're both, of course, held together by the Royal College of Art. So,
Yeah,
so there's certain kind of, I guess, stylistic
yeah.
something.
So, thinking about the company style, your work engages with that quite directly, and you see these kind of types that we've talked about.
Mhm.
So, talk to me a little bit about what you're doing in your portraits that is questioning that whole approach.
Yeah, I think to start with the title itself, I think I didn't call them company painting. I didn't call any of these things. I think I was what I was when I started. You know, when I met Sunil in 2009, and you know, when accidentally we both end up here in the UK, and I got the opportunity to study art formally. I was thinking about like where are the people like me or stories like me in art history. And as Sunil was also like questioning earlier that about like gay lives, but I think there's something about this first of all, I think art has this promise to give and to speak about everybody's life, and that's how we through philosophy and all kinds of other scholarship, we kind of like sort of like, you know, back that idea, you know, to support that idea that, you know, art is for everybody, and, you know, talk about like human, you know, universality of some kind, and therefore also like beauty of some kind which is universal. But it was not the case, you know. So for me, I think when I rediscovered these company paintings, I was seeing these people who are doing something. They were in action, they were cleaning, they were doing something,
But actually
gardening or
reduced to just that, though.
yeah, and they were kind of like also for me, they were also for eternity, they are serving something. They are like action figure. They are like in action, doing something, and reading a little bit of like art history. This poise or to hold a pose only comes in these kind of aristocracy, and only they can hold the pose. They can only hold this fingers like that, very right. And so that was the kind of also idea about like, you know, what is the beauty promises, and also like idea like, you know, can all these people also be in the same category as beauty,
I see.
you know, so things like that. So that's what I was thinking about, like what the beauty promises to everybody. Does it promise, like equally to everybody, or it has like its own biases towards certain kind of body types? So that was one of the reason to think about. And also so that was kind of like main reason to think about like these archetypes and these, which also like creates this kind of like, you know, historically in India, like now it's also kind of creates this hierarchy that, you know, certain kind of people are not beautiful, or certain kind of people cannot acquire the same space as
Not
subject of
suited for
desire.
portraits.
Yeah, it's also
yes,
the idea of subject of desire, because when you're thinking about subject of desire, you're only seeing of certain kind of body types and certain kind of people in that. You know, like when you see like Bridgertons or like something, you know, you there's always a Mark Darcy, which like everybody's like geared towards, but there is no other kind of people. Whereas all those like, you know, so you have this kind of like, you know, thinking about idea and then eligibility and something and desirability.
Absolutely.
So that was the kind of like.
Well, they did something with colour in Bridgerton, but not class. That was the way of thinking.
And that's also what's interesting, because I think your work is very interested in class, but I don't see the same class.
Class.
In your work, I don't see that as something that you're necessarily that engaged with, but you very much are. That's one of the places I think where you go like that a little bit, where you diverge, but you come back together, especially in this exhibition, in terms of your style and your approach and the kind of interest in that colonial era.
So I had returned to India to live in the 2000s and mid 2000s, and found myself at a moment where there was a huge debate going on to overturn Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, which was a British colonial hangover, which was outlawing sodomy, same exact law as used to exist here. And there was a civil movement to have it written out, coupled with some petitions in the courts. The first had been unsuccessful, and the second one was in the works. And people's hopes were raised, because I found India to be very much at a turning point myself personally. Because compared to the 80s, when I spent more time there earlier, it seemed very rigid and unchangeable. And people said there was no point in even trying, because, we're 5,000 years old, it's not going to change. It's been like this for centuries. And so nobody was trying. But suddenly, and it was also like, in economic terms, it was still a planned economy, in the Soviet style slightly. And so everything was difficult, moving in and out and so on. But now when I went back, suddenly the economy had opened up, and there was a new generation that had only experienced the neoliberal globalized economy.
Yeah.
And so it triggered an influx of global media, and with it came this idea of sexual equality. And so the young people that I met, all they knew was that they needed to be free of this law like everywhere else, meaning the West. And that's what they wanted, and they wanted it now, and they weren't prepared to put up with it's 5,000 years old. So they were agitating, and then I met this group of people, and a particular group of activists, a specific group, and I got involved with them. And I found their impatience and their kind of utopian kind of outlook on change, very touching. And then I accidentally was at this Tate exhibition of pre-Raphaelites, about whom we've all heard a lot, including me, but I hadn't actually seen them up close, or looked at them too hard, mostly in books. And suddenly I was in front of them, and they just seemed very extraordinarily kind of well put together with color and everything. And I was quite taken in by them. Then the whole mood of that period, I felt, reminded me of what was happening in Delhi. And so then the project was triggered by accidentally, there was an opportunity in Delhi to set up a studio in a gallery during an opening for a show. Instead of me putting existing work forward, I was going to shoot something at the opening. I made a portrait studio, basically. Yeah. And various people came and posed. I had a kind of posing setup. And one of them ended up looking like Olympia. So we put him up. And I wasn't sure what would happen, but it was incredible. In Delhi, everyone responded very positively somehow. It's as if, I think Olympia has become a universal image. You don't have to have studied art history, you don't have to live here either. Everyone seems to know it. And then I sent it back to London to autograph, this black group that I'd helped set up back in the 80s. And the person there said, "This looks very interesting. How about I give you £1,000? You make a few more, like 10 more or something." That was the trigger. And I set about making 10 more with the help of the wonderful Tate catalogue, which became my reference Bible.
How did you choose the images you were going to? Did you have the people in mind first that you were going to use in your setup? Which picture, or did you just go for the pictures that spoke to you the most from the catalogue?
Oh, it was a matter of what was easiest to work with.
Okay, very practical.
It was a practical thing.
Yeah.
So the very first thing was the cover, because I was using this catalogue by Elizabeth Pettyjohn, which I talked before, and the cover is a head.
Chloe's worked with her.
There's a woman with with the hair streaming down, and that seemed like an obvious and easy thing to do.
Yes,
I just needed some flowers and the woman.
Yeah, I see.
And
And you always use people you know. Sorry to interject.
I used people I knew. And basically, actually, I used the people in this activist group. They became my models. So
And they appear in many series.
They're in several series. So they're my models. So they're also in the pictures. And it's their moment that we're talking about. And so with regard